In heaven, he allots functions to other gods and can increase their status at will. On earth, he confers kingship and his decisions are regarded unalterable. Anu is sometimes credited with the creation of the universe itself, either alone or with Enlil and Enki. One could argue Elohim, the plural God that created let man in our image. Again, this has nothing to do with that, but you can start to see shadows. You can start to see little typologies there. Anu is credited with the creation of the universe itself, either alone with Enlil, Enki, or of the three levels of heaven, he inhabited the highest. So here you have an ancient text saying that there's three heavens. We're just going to go ahead and defend that real quick. There are three heavens, 2 Corinthians 12:2, where Paul states, I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven, whether it was in the body or out of the body, I do not know. Third heaven, so there's three different heavens. Why? I've told you guys why. Heaven is on earth. Everything that you think is earth or space or sky is heaven. What are the three heavens? Earth, sky, space. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. In fact, it's referenced even more in the Bible. I just didn't dig for all the verses. There are three heavens. The heaven on earth is considered the lower heaven, but it is originally where God's paradise was. That's called Eden. Eden was on earth, right? God's paradise is heaven, and you were in it until you sinned. You recognize that everything you do, God sees, right? You also know that there are spirits and demons all around you. What does that mean? It's because you're in the spirit realm right now, but there's a veil. You're cut off from it because of sin. So that means everything you do in front of them. Let me ask you, do you look weak when the demons come upon you? We got one. We got Sissy over here. He ain't rolling with God. Target. Are you mocking God? That's the one you died for? You see this clown? You're doing it in front of them. Everything you do in front of them. You're mocking God when you sin in front of them. Because they're looking back at God going, that's the clown you died for. There's the clowns. Everything you do in front of them. So it's important to know that heaven is earth, space, and sky. It's all around you at all times. This is exactly what Jesus says. I go to prepare a new place. What does he say? A new earth and a new heaven, because it's a new earth with heaven again. It's the same thing. This one gets destroyed, a new one will appear. It's all the same. It's all the same. Let's see here. Anu frequently receives the title Father of the Gods, something right? And many deities are described as his children in one context or another. From the second millennium onward, Anu is mentioned regularly in literary texts, inscriptions, and personal names, although rarely as the central figure. He seems to have always been regarded as rather remote from human affairs. God, the Father, who doesn't really intermingle, we're separated from him. He's the main dude, but he's always called the Father. All the other gods are called his sons. Are we noticing any shadows here? And he's not that involved because we're all underneath a different God. So we're going to go into that. Here we go. Now these are his children. These are called the Ananua, Anunnaku, or the Anunnaki. In the Sumerian textual corpus, the Anunnaki are described as the highest gods of the Mesopotamian pantheon. Anu is occasionally mentioned as the father of the Anunnaki, and some texts indicate that the relationship between the Anunnaki are brotherly sisterly. Okay? The meaning of the term Anunnaki changed after Old Babylonian period, when it was used to describe the gods of the netherworld as opposed to the gods of heaven, the Igigi. In some cases, the Igigi seem to have the same meaning as the Anunnaki had in Sumerian texts. Why? Because they're the same thing. The Igigi and the Anunnaki are the exact same thing. The Anunnaki are sometimes invoked in curse formulas and also appear in incantations, but are overwhelmingly attested in literary and mythological texts. So these angels are invoked in curses and formulas and incantations. These are fallen angels. But the Igigi kept their title because they're the good ones. Later, and I don't know if I put that all on here, later they call the Anunnaki the gods of the netherworld. In the beginning, they just called them the Anunnaki. Then later, during the Babylonian time, they called them the gods of the netherworld, and the Igigi kept the title of the gods of heaven. So it was a separation of angels. At one time, they both were the same thing, until they weren't. So we've got Anu, that's the daddy. We've got the title of all the kids. Now we're going to talk specifically about some of the kids. Enlil. Enlil was known as the supreme deity of the Mesopotamian pantheon. He has decreed the fates. His command could not be altered, and he was the god who granted kingship. His temple, Ekur, the mountain house. We know about a god that reigns on a mountain, by chance. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Was located in the city of Nippur, the religious center of Mesopotamia. Up until the 2nd millennium BCE, his temple was the most important temple in all of southern Mesopotamia. He is considered in most traditions to be the firstborn son of Anu. Things are getting really creepy now. So he's considered to be the firstborn of Anu. Enlil is thought to be known as Lord Wind, Lord Air, and or Lord of the Air when he's seen acting in coordination with the storms and winds. However, the references to Enlil as a storm are usually in the context of wider destruction, where the storm could be opposite imagery as a powerful, devastating god rather than specifically a storm deity. The Lord of Destinies, the nominator of kings, but other poems are specifically aimed to ease his anger, and his devastating side is clear in the myth of Atra-Hasis, where it is Enlil who sends the drought, the plague, and the flood. So now we got Enki. So you've heard about Anu, you've heard about the Anunnaki as a whole. One of those Anunnaki is Enlil, also called the firstborn. Now we're going to move on to one of the other brothers, Enki. This is the mischievous god of wisdom, magic, and incantations who reside in the ocean under the earth. Now, Enki is also a son of the god Anu. He was a favorite god amongst diviners, magicians, witchcraft. He was a favorite god amongst diviners and is the ultimate source of ritual knowledge. He is a patron of the arts and crafts and all other achievements of civilization. Enki, now stay with me here. Enki is the creator and protector of humanity. He hatched a plan to create humans out of clay. Hello? Are we all the same page here? He hatched a plan to create humans out of clay so that he could perform work for the gods. So he wanted to make slaves. They're going to work for us. But the supreme god Enlil attempted to destroy Enki's newly created humans. Anu, along with Enlil and Enki, formed the supreme Mesopotamian Trinity. Are we familiar with the Trinity? Has Trinity leaked into our doctrines where we believe we worship 3 different gods? And do we see where it comes from? It's in almost every ancient culture there is. So now I'm going to dive you guys down into this actual text, the Atra-Hasis. And so it starts at tablet 1. When the gods instead of man did the work, bore the loads, the gods' load was too great, the work too hard, the trouble too much, the great Anunnaki made the Igigi carry the workload 7-fold. Anu, their father, was king, and their counselor, warrior Enlil. Not quite a name for that character, huh? Warrior Enlil. So they acknowledge man. One group of the gods makes another group of the gods carry the workload. Anu is their father, and the counselor of the gods is warrior Enlil. Anu, and I cut out big sections of this to try to save on time. Anu went up to the sky, and Enlil took the earth for his people. So God the Father leaves, and Yahweh takes over the earth and his people. I mean, we can see shadows here. I'm not saying that these are the characters. I'm saying that all of these ancient texts are shadows and typology of the truth, which the truth is Christ. So all of these are shadows and types. Anu went up to the sky, and Enlil took the earth for his people. The bolt which bars the sea was a sign to far-sighted Enki. And when Anu had gone up to the sky, and the gods of the Apsu had gone below. So what do we just get out of that? Here we see the separation of the Father from man and earth. Enlil took the earth for his people, and what's the outcome? Anu went up while other gods fell. Okay, the Great Marsh, they were counting for the years of loads. For 3,600 years, they bore the excess hard work night and day. They groaned and blamed each other, grumbled over the masses and excavated soil. Let us confront our, whatever, the Chamberlain, and get him to relieve us of our hard work. Come, let us carry the Lord. But I would argue it's saying, let us call upon the Lord. Come, let us call the Lord, the counselor of gods, the warrior from his dwelling. Come, let us carry or call Enlil. So now they're like getting pissed. These other angels are like, we're tired of doing the work. We're tired of working. We need to go get Enlil, and we need to fix this problem. Anu's not here. He left. That's the father, right? The main god, the daddy, who's not really called an angel. These are all his children. He's gone. So now they want to confront Enlil about all the work, saying every single one of us gods, right? Every single one of us gods declared war. We have put a stop to the digging. The load is excessive. It is killing us. Our work is too hard. The trouble too much. So every single one of us gods has agreed to complain to Enlil. So they come up with this idea of creating an offspring. They're not going to make the angels do it anymore. They're complaining, right? So we're going to make our own thing. We're going to create what they think are humans. We're going to create humans. I wouldn't say they think it, but that's the way it's worded. We're going to see real quickly what's actually going on here. Balale, I don't know if I said that name right. The womb goddess is present. Let her create primeval man, so that he may bear the yoke. So that he may bear the yoke, the work of Enlil. Let man bear the load of the gods. Belil, the womb goddess, is present. Let the womb goddess create offspring. All right. I'm not going to say that there aren't female goddesses. I believe that there are. But I believe what they're talking about is a human here. So let's go a little bit deeper. And I'm going to show you why I think that, because when we get further, it gets a little bit more descriptive. And let man bear the load of the gods. They called up the goddess, asked the midwife of the gods, wise mommy, we're going to call her mommy, mammy maybe. You are the womb goddess to be the creator of mankind. Create primeval man that he may bear the yoke. Let him bear the yoke, the work of Enlil. Let man bear the load of the gods. And it too made her voice heard and spoke to the great gods. It is not proper for me to make him. The work is Enki's. So this is something that Enki should be doing. He makes everything pure. So Enki makes everything pure. So I shouldn't be doing this. Enki should be doing it because he makes things pure. If he gives me clay, then I will do it. Enki made his voice heard and spoke to the great gods. On the 1st, 7th, and 15th of the month, I shall make a purification by washing. Then one god should be slaughtered. Are you staying with me? We're going to kill a god now. One of these gods should be slaughtered, and the gods can be purified by immersion. Ninitu shall mix clay with his flesh and blood. Then a god and a man will be mixed together in clay. What are we making here? Are we making people, or are we making something completely different? We're mixing angels with humans. And this is important. Let a ghost come into existence from the god's flesh. Let a ghost come into existence from the god's flesh. Okay. Let her proclaim it as a living sign, and let the ghost exist so as not to forget the slain god. Enki has a plan. He's going to kill a god as a blood sacrifice, and the other gods can immerse themselves in the flesh and blood to be purified. Basically, what they're doing is they're making a pact. We're going to do this thing. We're going to make a pact. We're going to kill a god. We're going to swim in his blood. You see it right there. We're going to immerse ourselves in a purification pool of a dead god. I mean, that seems pretty gloom, right? Like, who would do that? I don't know. Maybe Moses. Let's check this out. Moses drained half the blood from these animals into basins. The other half he splattered against the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people. And they said, all that the Lord has said, we will do and be obedient. Almost like drones. All that he has said, we will do and be obedient. And what happens next? And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people. Are they immersing themselves in the blood of their altar sacrifice? Is that what the Anunnaki are doing? They're making a sacrifice and they're putting themselves in the blood. We see very easily, we can see a comparison that's happening here of purification under a covenant. So they're making an agreement. Moses is making an agreement. This seems like a pretty popular thing. Let's kill something, make an agreement, and dance in their blood. I mean, that's what we see happening. Now, when a god dies, when a Nephilim dies, his spirit becomes a demon. So if you've ever wondered where demons came from, the book of Enoch tries to touch on that. This is Enoch 15, 8-12. And now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall there be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies because they are born from men and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on the earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven shall be their dwelling, but for the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth, on the earth shall be their dwelling. So you're not going to die and go to heaven. You're not going to die and go to hell. You're going to roam the earth as a roaming spirit because I didn't create you. You created your own thing. Now you're trapped doing your own thing. And it's funny because in the Anunnaki language, we get the same concept. When the angel dies, we'll keep a spirit alive to remember that angel, right? We get a very similar typology or shadow there. Okay. On the 1st, 7th, and 15th month, he made a purification by washing Iwala, which I'm assuming is the name of this angel or god that they're taking, who had intelligence. They slaughtered in their assembly. Ninitu mixed the clay with his flesh and blood. They heard the drum beat forever, the heartbeat. So the heartbeat started. They were like, oh, it's working. Now we get a breakdown of the ritual that produces their humans. So while that sounded simple, there's actually a breakdown. It's not just that they mix clay together and instantly it happened. We get a full breakdown. Farsighted Inky and Wise Mommy went into the room of fate. So they go into their own little temple, right? Their own little room away from everything. The womb goddesses all of a sudden became plural. Where was womb goddess? If this was a magic trick, why do you need multiple women? This isn't some magic trick where they're taking dirt and they're impregnating women. That's what's happening with gods, with angels. Angels are having sex with women. You're getting the same Genesis 6 story, but you're getting it in a culture where the language is slightly different, so it doesn't quite look the same way. But it is the same thing, as you'll see here. Inky, staying in the presence, made her recite. She kept reciting incantation. Frankie, staying in the presence, made her recite. When she had finished her incantation, she pinched off 14 pieces of clay and set 7 pieces on the right, 7 on the left. Between them, she put down a mud brick. She made use of it. A reed opened up to cut the umbilical cord. Called up the wise, knowledgeable womb goddesses. Here we have the plural again. 7 and 7. 7 created males and 7 created females. So you just got 14 things that were created. If this was a magic trick, you didn't need 14 women. It's a magic trick. They brought 14 of these women in. They had sexual intercourse with them, and they created their new slaves, which are the Nephilim. The Anunnaki are the angels having sex with women, creating the Nephilim that we deal with here. So, now their Nephilim have been created, male and female, in their image. Do we see typology? This is all about imitating God. Everything is about imitating God. They want to create their own thing. Over time, the Nephilim become noisy. I'm cutting out full sections. Over time, the Nephilim became too noisy, and Enlil got tired of all the noise, so he sends plagues, drought, and finally the flood. 600 years, less than 600 passed, and the country became too wide, the people too numerous. The country was as noisy as a bellowing bull. The god grew restless at their racket. Enlil had to listen to their noise. He addressed the great gods. The noise of mankind has become too much. I am losing sleep over their racket. Give the order to send, we shall send, disease shall break out. So here you have sections missing, but here Enlil, acting as the warrior that he is diseasing them because they're being too loud. That's what's very familiar. Now, there was one, Atra-Hasis, which, mind you, is the name of this tablet that we're reading from. That's the main character of this story. Now there was Atra-Hasis, whose ear was open to his god, Inky. So Atra-Hasis is the Nephilim, is one of his creations that loves Inky, worships him as God, doesn't mess with Enlil, doesn't mess with him. He's chosen Inky as his god. So, and Inky likes him. And Inky's given him secret information. That's interesting. Now there was one Atra-Hasis whose ear was open to his god, Inky. He would speak with his god, and his god would speak with him. Atra-Hasis, a Nephilim who worships Inky. He is also the shadow of Noah, typology, right? Atra-Hasis is the shadow of Noah, builds a boat, collects animals, dodges a flood, typology. And Inky gives them secret information. That would be Yahweh coming to Noah, right? When the second year arrived, they had depleted the storehouses. When the third year arrived, the people's looks were changed by starvation. When the fourth year arrived, their upstanding bearing bowed, their well-set shoulders slouched. People went out in public, hunched over. A daughter would eye her mother coming in. A mother would not even open her door to the daughter. A daughter would watch the scales at the sale of her mother. We on the same page here? A mother would watch the scales at the sale of her daughter, and when the 6th year arrived, they served up a daughter for a meal and served up a son for a meal. And what do we find in the book of Enoch? The Nephilim turned on each other and started eating each other. Now they begin fighting amongst themselves. Because of the condition of the earth, everything is in chaos due to the Nephilim, droughts, and plagues. They were furious with each other, Inky and Enlil. We are the great Anunnaki, or Anunnah. All of us agreed together on a plan. Anu and Adad were to guard above. I was to guard the earth below, where you went. You were to undo the chain and set us free. You were to release produce for the people. You were to exercise control by holding the balance. Then the warrior Enlil, and we missed 30 lines, but I would argue this is Enlil yelling at Inky. You're missing the lines, but from the context it comes off that way. You imposed your loads on man. You bestowed noise on mankind. You slaughtered a god together with his intelligence. Well, who was it did that? Inky. So obviously he's yelling at Inky. You must create a flood. You caused all this problem. Now it's time for you to flood everyone. Oh, we seeing some typology stories going on here, huh? So you caused the problem, now flood it and deal with it. It is indeed your power that shall be used against your people. Whoa! That gets a little creepy. That gets a little creepy, okay? You agreed to the wrong plan. Have it reversed. Let us make Farsighted Inky swear an oath. What did you just say? We ain't got time for oaths. What did you say? Make your yeses or your no's. We don't do oaths around here. Let us make Farsighted Inky swear an oath. Inky made his voice heard. Now they all point to Inky to take the blame for all the chaos. Therefore, it's Inky's job to fix the problem. And spoke to his brothers, so we can clearly see that these are his brothers. Therefore, they're all angels. Not one is greater than the other, as you can tell. And spoke to his brothers, gods. Why should you make me swear an oath? Why should I use my power against my people? The flood that you mentioned to me, what is it? I don't even know. Could I give birth to a flood? That's Enlil's kind of work, because he's the warrior god Enlil. Inky sends his Nephilim follower, Atra-Hasis, a vision and a dream. Atra-Hasis is asking to have the vision explained. The Reed Hut is a secret place where Inky gives Atra-Hasis information. Now Inky explains to Atra-Hasis that he should build a boat and save living things. Atra-Hasis addresses the elders and explains how the followers of Enlil have kicked him out of his home because his father is fighting with their father. Inky is beefing with Enlil, so they've kicked him out of his home. He's not even allowed to live there anymore. Reject possessions and save living things. The boat that you will build, roof it like the Absu. Absu is a very... So Absu is the waters. You see it in Genesis where they separated the waters. In ancient Sumerian, Absu is the waters above and the waters below. Inky lives in the waters below of the Absu, and then you have the ones that live in the higher Absu or the waters above. You also see it in Genesis where he split the waters and the water was the front, top, foundation, same scenario. In fact, Marduk's story is the same thing. Marduk split Tiamat, who was the water, and created the saltwater top and the freshwater bottom. It's a whole other Sumerian text from the same general area. But anyway. Made his voice heard, spoke the elders. My God is out of favor with your God. Inky and Enlil have become angry with each other. They have driven me out of my house, since I always stand in awe of Inky. Since I worship Inky, they don't want me here. And so Inky has told me of this matter. Now they describe the flood as seen below. And there's more to the flood, but to keeping it short. We have a full section missing here. The flood came out. The weapon went against the people like an army. No one could see anything else. They could not be recognized in the catastrophe. The flood roared like a bull, like a wild ass screaming in the winds, howled. The darkness was total. There was no sun, like white sheet blank of the flood. So obviously the flood ain't good. Enlil is furious with all the other angels for letting anyone survive the flood, as you're about to see. And Anu, father of the angels, speaks up and exposes Inky behind the survival of the Nephilim. Warrior Enlil spotted the boat and was furious with the Iki-Iki. Why? Because they're also the angels. We, the great Anunnaki, all of us agreed together on an oath. No form of life should have escaped. How did any man survive the catastrophe? Anu, the father, made his voice heard and spoke to the warrior Enlil. God sees all things, right? So you're not hiding in a reed shed, are you? You're not hiding in a reed shed. Watch what the news says. He's not even here. He made sure that the Reed Hut disclosed the order. Knows everything, doesn't he? Inky made his voice heard and spoke to the great gods. I did it in defiance of you. I made sure life was preserved. 5 lines missing. Exact your punishment from the sinner and whoever contradicts your order. Okay, so will we see the Nephilim again?
You got to moving target? No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow. Look at the fly. Yeah, drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is our LNS, dude. Well, if there's look at that thing. It's rotating.
She's also made videos saying that doctors make medicine using DNA from aliens and that they're trying to create a vaccine to make you immune from becoming religious.
Well, maybe it's the same, maybe it's not.